Captain Ginyu was sitting in the middle of his fatigued bridge, aboard the vessel that was one of the last remnants of the Freezer Force. He dubbed it Cold's Grasp, and he always hoped that the threat of black would be gone once and for all. His wish came true due to some familiar faces. Some of them were way too familiar. So it seemed that the alternate timelines were a thing, something that had invigorated the old, grizzled leader of the squad. He had lost a lot, one of his men, his old body, but his will to survive had never been stronger, especially seeing that what could only be the alternative version of his comrades being partially responsible for the victory against the mad god. His current body, whilst possessing immense potential, was still a little bit too soft for his liking. He felt small and not really used to it, but still, acquiring it gave him some sort of satisfaction. The captain did not have a lot of time to think about his fate, though, as Jace called in his underlings. Berta, who changed the least out of all of them, Raccoon, who now sported 2 cybernetic arms, and 2 new recruits in Kagome and Shisami. Well, he thought new, but in reality, they had been running with them for quite some time. So, is it true? Kagome shifted his gaze to their leader. Is Black truly gone? Indeed. Apparently by the hands of Son Goku from another timeline. And look who helped them. Ginyu pressed a button on his throne. Oh, look, how cute. They even have a Goldo. Kagome grinned mockingly. Don't you dare mock our fallen comrade! Berta lashed out, most of the damage being sustained on a more psychological nature, and a lot of his optimism had been wiped out. I am not mocking. This one even appears to be somewhat useful. Kagome? Ginyu raised his finger. Forgive me, Captain. Just some friendly banter, that is all. So, how can it help us? Listen, and you will know. Shisami glared at him. It was no mystery that the two didn't really get on with one another, with Kagome being the least popular member of this current iteration of the squad. But still, in these trying times, they were stronger together. Though Ginyu knew that if he could, he would have challenged his leadership. Luckily, with this latest addition, he was the stronger one. Son Goku foolishly spared us years ago, trying to make us renounce our true loyalties. I believe we can convince the one from a different timeline that we have changed our ways. Thanks to that, we can get in touch with the alternative versions of the 3 of you and learn about the key to their power. If we so happen to learn it, we can conquer what is left of this universe and, dare I say, bring our magnificent Lord Frieza back. Bring Lord Frieza back? Is it even possible? This admission surprised even Kagome. If they have a set of working Dragon Balls on this Earth or another Earth, maybe. Ginyu smiled in the darkness. Maybe it can work. Or just an idea. Maybe we can serve their Lord Frieza. There isn't much to rule around here, Captain. Jace tried to not look ungrateful. That is a good point, Jace. But we have our duties towards our rightful Emperor. We will do that if there aren't any other options. Set our course for Earth. We need to talk with them. Honestly, I would rather break some faces in. Shisami sighed under his breath. In due time, my friend, in due time. Ginyu saw the light in the tunnel, the new beginning, and all the rewards that would await him for reviving the Frieza Empire. Berta was looking frantically at the material. Leaving those drones on Earth was a good idea after all, but he still really detested the sight of his deceased friend hanging out with some idealized version of himself. It would be hard to keep his emotions inside, but he will have to manage. The Jace Brigade was helping to bring Trunks' Earth back to, well, normal wasn't the right word, as there was no coming back from whatever had happened to that planet, but still, they were doing what they did best, giving very, very positive support to anyone who was in dire need of their assistance, or at least just a little bit of cheering up. The remaining members of Earth's Defense Force and their families were incredibly grateful and quickly became used to having these heroes around. It felt really rewarding. It was one of the most rewarding experiences that the group had ever had in their line of work. Sure, helping people in their timeline was fun and it gave them purpose, but here, every day, it filled the quintet with some newfound hope. It was different, taking away something that was on the brink of total annihilation and making it beautiful again. Raccoon and 16 were doing a lot of the heavy lifting, literally, whilst Goldo and Berta assisted with moving heavy materials. Jace, together with Trunks, was also on planning duty, also trying to figure out if there might be at least one usable set of Dragon Balls in this timeline to start bringing back the Supreme Kais and then rebuild the rest of the universe. Gowasu from their timeline was helping as well, appearing on occasion from time to time to speed things along a bit, offer his knowledge. He didn't want to push his luck though, as it would be deemed too much interference for the heavenly bodies. But then again, he felt guilty for the sake of his equivalent in this reality, and really tried to be of good use. His biggest achievement, no doubt, was clearing out the sky. Now they could see blues and the occasional overcast sky instead of just the black smoky clouds that had covered everything for decades. It did miracles for morale and really helped to motivate the people by showing that their world could be fixed after all. I didn't think we would see a proper sunset here again, but now we have, Trunks said one day to Jace. They were up early to plan the new districts. You see, mate? I told you, we would get it. And don't you worry, we'll find a way to bring everybody back, and that's a promise. Thanks. I really do appreciate everything you guys have been doing. We've all come a long way. That we have done, yeah. I haven't felt so alive since the captain, you know what I mean? The future man nodded his head. Oh, I know exactly what you mean. That's how you guys helping me with your timeline worked for me as well. It's a good feeling. That it is. Shame we can't stay here forever though. For the balance of the universe and such. Well, maybe in our stead, you could maybe use a team like us yourself. Trunks laughed slightly. Well, I can't say you guys are too modest. We're allowed to pat ourselves on the back a little bit, mate. We all did good. You did good. Well, that you did, said the son of Vegeta, still laughing, whilst Mai had arrived with a sense of urgency painted on her face. Sorry to interrupt you, boys, but the EDS satellite has detected an object coming towards Earth. It seems like a starship. Oh, right, we helped to bring one of those into the air. Wait, starship? Huh, they might be refugees. Black and Zamasu have ravaged a lot of worlds before ours. Trunks pondered for a while, trying to figure out the identity of the craft. Well, maybe, but it looks, well... She showed them the laptop, and Jace froze for a moment. That was a Freezer Force vessel. So there were survivors. Jace scratched his chin. You think they mean trouble? I don't think there'll be a problem for me or any of your brigades, but I don't want anyone stressing out, especially the survivors. They've been through enough. I'll check it out. I'll gather the brigade and talk with them. If they're ex-Freezer Force, maybe we can sway them to become on our side. Jace shrugged, though they could clearly see that he was intrigued. He was very curious to see who was behind that craft. He then proceeded to contact his men with his Capsule Corps scouter. All right, brigade, we got ourselves a Freezer Force ship incoming. We're gonna welcome them and see if they have any problems, understand? No contact or fighting. I never thought there were any left in that timeline. Goldo said it through the comms. Raccoon could bake a welcoming cake if they are friendly. According to my analysis, we have around a 50-50 chance that they could pose trouble. I advise caution, 16 warned his comrades. I agree with our android friend. Let's not be too hasty. We know what they can do, Berta chimed in. All right, just gather round, mates. We don't want to alarm our new friends here. If they're not hostile, there's no need to stress people out, so keep it on the down low, you understand? Aye, Captain. There was a chorus of agreements, and Jace nodded to Trunks. Stay here. I'll contact you if there are any developments of the situation. As per good old tradition, the ship decided to land on one of the many wastelands on the planet Earth. There were plenty to choose from. Not that it was hard to find one in this day and age, since Goku Black had made more. Ruined cities were as good, but still, the brigade had the inkling that their visitors might want to keep a low profile, or be aware that they had been watched. After the vessel had landed, Jace decided not to waste any more time and addressed the newcomers directly. Alright y'all, this is Captain Jace of the Jace Brigade. This planet is under our jurisdiction. If you came here to cause trouble, this ain't the right address. If you're seeking help though, we're more than willing to assist you. There wasn't any response. Not for a long time. A very tense silence. Finally, after about 10 minutes, the ramp came down, and Jace could walk towards it to stand face to face with himself. What? Well, not quite, as he looked older, had shorter hair, and seemed very badly scarred. Accompanying him were Rakum, who had seen better days, armed with new cybernetic arms, and Berta, who appeared very antsy, as well as Taguma and Shisami? Well, it's good to see someone competent around here, mate. Future Jace gave his younger counterpart a dry smile. Whoa! Oh, I didn't even think about the possibility of us. You surviving in this timeline? Wow. Present Jace was stunned, just as every single member of his own brigade were, save for maybe 16, because nothing really got a rise out of him. Almost everyone. His counterpart gave a passing look to Goldo, who noticed that and gulped loudly. So, you're the captain now? Yeah, Ginyu's no longer with us. There was a brief moment of pause. Same here. We don't really have a hierarchy anymore. Tagoma chimed in, and Jace could feel that the Future Force weren't really comfortable with him taking the lead. Yeah, how did you two end up in the brigade? Present Berta's eyes narrowed. Maybe you will tell them, Tagoma smirked, poking the speedster's future counterpart, who then jumped and shrieked slightly. You want to know what happened? You want to know what happened? We were trying to survive. Once Black came up and everything went to Hiffle. The forces were in shambles. We lost Commander Sorbet and other members of the ruling council. So, we decided to take a refuge on a remote planetoid called, Suddenly, Future Berta became pale, almost like he were catatonic. Vampa. It was called Vampa, mate. Future Jace added after a while to help his comrade break out of his trance. Yes, the food was awful, but at least it seemed safe. That's until the Beastman showed up. Goldo scratched his head. Beastman? What do you mean by a Beastman?
Yes, and he was terrifying.
Shisami spoke for the first time.
He was deflecting everything we had. We were throwing at him everything. We had to escape. But the captain and Goldo, they didn't make it out.
Jace looked at the rest of the crew. They said nothing for quite a while. We're sorry for your loss, but what's your business here? How did you survive Namek? Son Goku. Though we parted ways after Yardrat, we decided to go on our own path. But as the captain tends to say, old habits die hard.
Indeed, but Rakum and his friends were able to turn a new leaf. What are your intentions?
The largest organic member of the Jace Brigade spoke out.
Maybe you can tell me.
His future counterpart gave him a very creepy grin, showing a massive scar across his throat. Rakum lost his vocal cords in that encounter. It was messy. I kind of missed hearing that voice, I gotta be honest. The future Jace shook his head. We've been monitoring this Earth. I mean, how can we not, right? With all that black nonsense happening? And we were shocked to see that you guys had something to do with it. So, we decided to show up, seeking guidance and direction. We don't know how many of the force are still left, to be honest. The brigade looked amongst themselves. There was a degree of pity, but also a lot of suspicion, especially from Goldo, who didn't like that he was gone from that equation and had been replaced by those two mooks. But still, they were given a chance. Had they not, they would probably end up in an even worse spot than these five. The present Jace looked at the future group. It was clear that they had been through Hiffle. We might be able to help you fellas. After all, it's what we're doing these days, but trust for trust. You need to answer one question for us. Aren't we playing your question game already? Tagoma seemed slightly bored. This one is pretty important, so listen up. Who is the sixth member on the ship? We can sense the sixth member, you know, so don't try and hide it. The future group looked at each other, somewhat in a bit of a panic. They could sense energy? Well, they were kind of surprised to see this, but also relieved that Jace wasn't able to identify specifically their final member. All right, we didn't wish to reveal it because we thought that you might freak out. Tagoma raised his hands, and Future J seemed as if he wanted to silence him. It's the former Heater. Gas.
Gas? You recruited Gas? One of the Heaters? You know they can't be trusted.
Goldo seemed flabbergasted. You know your galaxy getting destroyed creates strange bedfellows. You gotta make do with what you got, said Jace, the future one. He had nowhere to go. His family was dead. We also didn't want to get him out since he might freak out by seeing double. We might introduce him to you soon, when we prepare him. Tagoma nodded. And do you promise that you won't cause any trouble? The President Jace glared at them. Yeah, we promise. We just, we're tired of hiding. Teach us to handle things like you do. All right, fine. But don't try anything funny, all right? And explain that to Guess. If he's part of your team, he should be here. Sure thing, Tagoma nodded slowly. The Brenshin did not trust this guy one bit, but seeing Berta and Raccoon in this state kind of made him feel sorry for them in a way. He hoped that he was making the right choice. In the safety of his captain's chair, Ginyu was feeling out his ceremonial headrest, the last remnant of what was left after the original inhabitant of this body, Heater Gas. He was watching the entire exchange, and he had to give it to Tagoma. That was pretty clever what they'd said. Revealing that he was still alive wouldn't be smart, and they could use this to their advantage. This gambit could bring them closer to victory. Now, the only thing to do was to learn how to play his role for the time being, and not get found out. At least not yet. And hey, they're all Ginyu Force out there. Maybe he could recruit those other versions. Maybe once he gets the mastery of this body, and of that savage berserker form underneath, he could maybe get revenge of the beast man of Vampa, or even better, claim his body. No matter what the resolution was, for the first time in a long time, Captain Ginyu was glad to be alive again. The Freezer Force will rise again, and he will usher in its new era. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now.